I've torn down several Subaru engines on this channel over the last few years, and it should be no surprise to anyone on the planet that of all of the engines that have been blown up on my stand, all of the destruction we've seen, Subaru has been the best at reliably providing some of the worstly blown up engines ever. Now, I'm not going to tell you that all Subaru engines fail with a crankcase catastrophe, holes in the block. That isn't on all of them. That's just on most of them. Not all of them, just most of them. But there are a couple of Subaru engines that are good. In fact, there are two engines that I get requests for all of the time to tear down, and one of them I'm convinced I will never be able to find bad, and that is a Subaru 6-cylinder. There are people on YouTube that will tell you to buy the 4-cylinder over the 6-cylinder, and that is their opinion, and it just happens that their opinion is wrong. Always buy the 6-cylinder over the 4-cylinder. Today we're going to tear down an FA20DIT out of a 2016 Subaru WRX with 80,000 miles on it. I bought this from someone that watches the channel on a regular basis because I paid for this engine what I can sell the front cover for, so I get a video out of it, I get some scrap out of it, maybe some extra parts to sell. Everybody wins. The FA20DIT first came to North America for the 2014 Subaru Forester. At that point, it produced 250 horsepower, but in the WRX starting in 2015, this produced 268 horsepower, and I think these ran up till the 21 model year. Now, these engines, they're expensive. They're in high demand. There's a lot of people that need them, and there are two factors that drive price in the used world. Swaps, that's a big one, especially for the LS and the Coyote vehicles, but replacement is the #1 driver for price for used automotive parts, especially engines and transmissions. Without demand, the prices would be cheap. For instance, the 6-cylinder Subaru engines are like $1,000 for a good one, a low mileage one. These are like $4,000 or $5,000 or more, depending if you want to get a super low mileage unit. So if you own one of these cars, I have two sage words of advice for you. #1, make sure it's full of oil. And #2, make sure it's full of oil. Because if you don't do that, your engine could end up on the stand. There are two really major design differences between the FA engines and the predecessor, the EJ engines. #1, gone is the timing belt, and instead you have a timing chain. And #2, the turbo is down in front of the engine. Now, I'm not here to tell you that that's a great idea or a terrible idea. I've never seen a turbo become a crash part, but again, if you wreck your car hard enough where the turbo's damaged, you probably don't want to fix it anyway. At this point, it's time to turn this engine over. I assume that it does turn over, but you know, we've seen that in the past where they don't. Seems to turn over okay so far. Okay, maybe it's not. Now, it does have plugs in it, so I'm fighting compression a little bit, if it has any. This doesn't feel good. I don't hear Uncle Rodney banging around, so that's good. But the fact that it turns all the way over means this should come apart pretty easy. The first thing I'd like to do is pull the spark plugs and take a look. So aside from the plugs looking a little wet on the left or driver's bank, they don't look too bad. Nothing's broken or smashed. They don't have a huge gap. So far, so good. Now we're going back to turning this thing over because without plugs in it, it should feel a little different. Uh-oh. Rodney? Something's loose in there. Also doesn't seem to turn over quite that good for having no plugs in it. Uh-oh. The first thing I'd like to do is remove the charge pipe and the inlet pipe. It's all one piece, I think. I'm sure it comes apart a little bit. Ah, yes, there's a clamp there. I don't know if that worm clamp is factory or not. I'm sure you guys will tell me what is happening. What am I breaking? Oh, there's some spring clamps. Okay. Perfect. Next, we'll remove the upper intake manifold. comes off with the TGVs. Next, we'll try to remove these lower manifolds. This has this little baffle, airfoil. They just slide right out. I wonder if people delete those, or if that's a bad thing to do that. So these are a direct injected engine, and the intake ports and valves look the part. Of course, I've seen much worse than that. But they're still pretty grody looking. I don't see anything bent or too destroyed. I'll slide these out. I feel like I'm sliding something out at the dentist for like x-rays. Yeah, nothing too wrong yet. Just really dirty. Next, I'm going to work on cleaning some stuff off the top of the engine. We're going to start with the alternator. Next, this alternator bracket and tensioner. That did not help me. Next, we'll work on the EGR. Well, might as well get this unbolted. That didn't help me. Oh, the high pressure rail sensor was broken. That's fine. We didn't need that. At this point, I'm going to start crackling lines loose for the fuel system. Oh, that bolt is unhappy. Oh, it's really unhappy. Fine then. We'll just pull it off with the fuel rail, or with the coolant crossover. Makes no difference to me. Those hoses connect down here, so we'll just unclamp them. Oh, we're leaking coolant, it's fine. Now this contraption should come off. Perfect. Next, we're going to start cleaning some stuff off the front so we can pull the timing cover. That fits there. Now we'll remove the oil filter. I like that they have this little trough here for oil to sit. Now we have some hose in the way, the rubber kind. Honestly, this could probably come off with the cover. I think the next thing we're going to do is remove this hose. That was hard. This bracket out of the way. And now the crank bolt. Ah, this has its own little hub piece. It's pinned too. That's kind of nice. Now we're going to go around removing the few bolts that hold the timing cuff. You know, I was getting ahead of myself. I need to get this dipstick tube out of the way. I'm sure it's just going to be nice and easy. Oh, it's full. Well, I guess we're draining it next. This has some sort of quick drain thing on it. I just pull this out and turn it. How does this work? What kind of thing is this? What's wrong with a regular drain bolt? Oh wait, I think I see it. There we are. Figured it out, guys. And it looks like a little bit of sparkle to that oil. It's clean, it's not super dark. Or maybe that's just the shimmer of the bearing material that I'm seeing. I'm gonna let that drain for a hot minute. We'll continue zipping bolts out. There's not too many more bolts, I don't think. Did I get them all? I think I need to take the water pump pulley off next. You gotta be careful, I really don't want to hurt that water pump. Whoa there. What the what? All these are rounded off. Who did this? So these were rounded off. I'm not quite sure. That one came out. This one though. Nope, that one's not going to come out. Can I get this bolt past it? This is a situation. This isn't going to work. It didn't work. I told you guys it wasn't going to work, and you believed me. How else? I can't wreck the water pump. That'd be a travesty. I don't even know if I can get, oh, hey, look at that. Do I need to take that pulley off? Probably, yeah. To get all the water pump bolts out so I can save the water pump. That's a later Eric problem. Let's see if Blue can help us out with this timing cover here. Oh, we're moving. Oh, we're leaking stuff too. Oh no. So we're leaking sparkles. Let's straighten this up a little bit. Maybe it'll ease the leak. The leak's not a huge deal. I got pig mat here, but why is it leaking so bad here? Let's just hurry up and get this off. Timing cover reveal. Oh, I think the water pump's wrecking me here. Oh, no, I got it. And we're off. This thing is still leaking. I see problems. Nothing too horrific. Just your standard Subaru stuff. So I was looking over this pretty simple timing system and noticed there's some forbidden glitter. There's a whole mess of it down there. Let's get the light. There's a better idea of what we're dealing with. That's not supposed to be there. The timing system all looks pretty good. I don't see any broken guides. Nothing appears to be damaged at all. Now it's time to peel the timing chain tensioners off. This can't hurt me, right? See? I didn't need safety tote. They're fine. I'm just going to clean up this mess real quick with some pig mat. Like it's not even there. Now we can take these rails off. There's one. They got a lot of bearing material on them, but there's two. There's three. This one is still very taut. Is there another bolt holding this thing in, or is it just a chain? Wowza! Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Just don't look there. So all of the guides look pretty good. They definitely have a wear streak where you can see where the chain's been riding. And they appear to be original. Yeah, these are nice. But more importantly, now we can get these chains off. Look at this. This is a nice pair. I don't think these engines really have chain problems, but these are beautiful. Before we go any further, it's time to remove the high pressure fuel pump. Hopefully I don't strip these out. And there's the high pressure fuel pump. And I think while we're here, I'm going to get this off. Does this come out now? Yes? No? And it's off. Now we're just going to roll this thing over so I can start to pull the turbocharger. This is going well. Beautiful, I think. So here is the turbo layout. It's a lot different than the EJs. Because the runners are a lot shorter, probably spools up a lot faster. It's also much, much bigger turbo. You can fit like 3 of the EJ turbos inside of this one. or at least that's how it looks. So I think I can just remove this as a unit. 3 bolts on this side.
3 bolts on this side.
We got some hoses that are able to just be pulled off. Got a couple clamps left. Nothing to it. Something to it. Looks like this area had a very long oil leak. Or maybe, no, that's an exhaust leak? Maybe both. This is all coming apart pretty simply. Looks like I have an oil feed left, and I don't know what the oil return looks like. Do I need 2 wrenches? Should I use 2 wrenches? Yes. Am I using 2 wrenches? No. Okay, at this point, I'm going to buzz the 6 bolts out, and we're going to see what else is hanging us up. That's not the right nut on there. Someone's been in here. Let's see, does this come off easy now? Oh, it moved. Blue. I think I can just grab it at this point. I think that's what I'm going to do. And we're off. Let's take a look at this turbo. I'm going to unbolt this inlet pipe. Uh-oh. That's not supposed to be loose. What the what? So I was just going to talk about how I think I've got this turbo sold when I found the impeller nut inside the inlet pipe, and it's obvious that the impeller wheel has been chewing on that thing. Look at the gap between the housing and the wheel. That turbo is wrecked. I bet the housing has damage, the impeller has damage. This is a core at best, but it is a pretty good sized turbo for a 2-liter. It's a real shame about the turbo. Everything else looks like it checks out okay. It's a factory piece. Oh, maybe not. What say the experts? Is that Chinese writing? I think that's an aftermarket turbo. It does say Honeywell on it though. It says Garrett on the compressor wheel. Is that a factory turbo or not? Before we flip this engine over, I'm going to start unbolting some of these coolant lines. On the other side, we've got some oil lines to contend with. Coolant line. When that contraption's off, now we'll start pulling the cylinder heads. We're going to start with the right-hand bank. We'll start with the valve cover. Okay, let's take a look here. It's really clean in here. There's no signs of varnish. But if you look there, here, let's get a better. That metal, oil, has metal in it. I almost said that metal has oil in it. That's also true. It's a better look. Not good. Before we go camming the cram caps loose, we need to remove this. Glue should help us out here. It's an oil pump. Ooh, there's the wrong color oil in that. I don't know how easy it is to tell, but that oil has bearing, or at least metal in it. We knew that. Let's cram these caps off. I like how they give you a place to pry. Uh-oh. Will you come back here? You don't go there. Let's take a look at these cams. Not a ton of damage there. A little bit more damage there. Yikes, it's pretty bad. But the caps, look at that. That is wrecked. And that is damage from debris. You know, it just takes the tip off the metal is what I'm saying. Yikes, it's bad. And the cam also has damage. No bueno. Now it's time to remove this cam plate. Is it a carrier, a plate, a tower? What does Subaru call this? It doesn't matter, we're taking it off. You know what? We're doing it wrong. Nope, we're doing it right. Blue. What do I pry on? Right here. Where that bolt that I haven't taken out is. I would have figured it out eventually. Just a little tap. Little bitty tap. Like a glove. I can pick up all these rocker arms. That one's just gonna... I need to get that out. Next, it's time to crack the head bolts loose. What's behind head number 1? Well, I see a problem. There's the head gasket. It doesn't look bad. Well, the front cylinder, some vertical scratches, not too terrible. A little worse on that side. But this cylinder, you guys see the problem yet? There's an outline of the cylinder head's combustion chamber because that piston kissed the cylinder head. And I bet we'll find coinciding marks on the head. Before we look at that cylinder head, it's time for some science. That's got a problem. We knew that already. Not that we couldn't already tell at this point, but this engine has been into before. Someone's been here. As you can clearly see, someone used a roll-lock wheel to, resurface the cylinder head. It's not how you do it, folks. I don't know how much it cost by you guys, but it's $75 a head here. And you get a much better result than this. But you can clearly see the difference between this combustion chamber and this one right here. That looks like a consistent amount of carbon. This is cleaner because when that piston comes up, it presses all of the carbon out of that area. Hopefully the head's still good. On to the other bank. Very similar story on this bank. All the valve train appears to be in good shape, but the oil that's down here in the corners has a little metal tinge. Next, we will unbolt the cam caps. Similar story over on this bank. Rollers all feel nice. That journal's not too bad. That one's probably a little better than its companion on the other side, but that one definitely had some material run through it. Cams, similar amounts of damage, maybe a little more. Caps are wasted. That's not so bad. Definitely damaged, though. I don't think I could sell these. I don't think there's any value here with that much damage. Especially that one. This camshaft, Pretty heavily damaged. Now for this cam tray tower carrier plate. Oh no, rocker arms. Oh, that bolt is bent. Just a little tap. You know what? It really helps to get all the bolts out. It's probably much easier now. Yeah, the sheer volume of sealant here is, I know Subaru likes to go heavy on sealant, but not like this. This is more than Subaru would. Let's get these rocker arms out of here. Hey, come here. Come back. Once again, the head bolts. And what's behind head number 2? Well, let's see, we got a head gasket. Wait a second here. Why does that look like someone used a roll-lock wheel on this? Maybe it's just the impression of the cylinder head. Otherwise, it looks good. Science first, pleasure last. Pass. So this side has more scoring, more damage to the board. Look at that. That looks deep. We're going to find some damage there. I guarantee it. It's hard to see what this one looks like because it's so far up the bore. And you can see that the surface of the cylinder head was definitely done by a professional machinist. Yep. But the combustion chambers look good. I don't see any valve damage. There's no signs that the pistons hit this cylinder head. I've been avoiding this all day, night, evening, whatever time it is there, that's how long I've been avoiding it. And now I need to deal with this stripped out bolt, rounded off bolt on the water pump. And for that, we're going to use our trusty vice grips. And it's going to maybe work. Just got to get it really tight. Tighter. That's not going to work. I feel like I'm going to drop something into this pan. I'm going to move the pan. This is going to work. It didn't work at all. It's not working. Whoever tightened this, I would like to see your torque wrench. I guess you don't have one, probably. Let's try using sharper part of the jaw here. And the bolt in the crank is becoming a problem as well.
Yeah.
I win, you lose. That's a nice pulley. Ah. Now it's time to remove the water pump, finally. Well, it's kind of shaped like a, it looks kind of like a, it looks like a water pump. Yep, that's what it looks like. A little bit of corrosion around where the seal is, but it spins really nice. You know what? I know a guy that can use this. Need to make sure this goes the right direction. It's got to go a long distance. That's a bad idea.
All right, me and Chris, we're going over this. We're going to get the front door, we're going to get the rear door glass, quarter cut, so on and so forth. And we'll get this in the garage, get it taken care of, all right?
All right, sounds good, Pete.
Not today, Eric, not today.
Now we can turn this thing over, start pulling the oil pan. To get the lower pan off, there's just a ring of 10mm headed bolts. You can smell the RTV already. Okay. Ooh, sparkly. Well, there's lots of sparkles. Way too many sparkles to be in this oil pan for a good engine, which we know it's not. And that looks like a sparkle level sensor, oil level sensor. I'm glad that these engines have that. I'm sure it mattered in this case. Oh, look at the oil pan. It's a work of art. I call it dispersed bearing. Now it's time for the upper oil pan. It's got me a little concerned too because one of the studs I have it mounted to my engine stand goes to that. We'll cross that bridge when it falls down. Is that it? Before I actually take this off, we're going to get the pickup out of the way. I didn't need that anyway. That went in the bin. It's okay. I didn't need it. Well, let's see if we can shake any engine out of the pickup tube. Let's get the bolt out. Oh, there's definitely something in there. Uh-oh. That's not good. Folks, that is the first for the channel. That's a piston ring. That doesn't go in the pickup. Either someone put this engine together wrong, or someone put this engine together wrong. That's a first. It's over here somewhere. Well, these sockets will never rust. Let's unbolt this part from the engine stand. And this is going to be fun. Fine is what I meant to say. It's going to be fine. Did I get all the bolts out? Yes. Is there a place to pry? Yes. No. Look at this. Watch this. Perfect. There's the sparkly paste on the inside of the upper oil pan. About what you'd expect. Now, these engines are much different than their predecessor in several facets. One of them is that you can remove the rods and pistons without splitting the block. In fact, you cannot pull the wrist pins out like you can on an EJ. You can only take them apart, dare I say, conventionally. So let's turn this over and see how this feels. Bad. Real bad. That's a lot of resistance. Sounds bad. Feels bad. It's just bad. And there's some bearing matter in here. Look at that. Chunks of bearing. Now, because of the rod design, we can get the bolts out from here and slide the rods and pistons out without splitting the block. So now it's time to get the rods and pistons out, and doctors always say they want you to start at the front, so that's what we're going to do. Right there. That allows us access to these two bolts. I wonder how tight these are. Not tight at all. Is that bad? That was way looser than most rod caps are. Ooh, bad. Now, can I push this up? Yes, I can. Can I push it out? Well, I messed up and let go. Can I get it back? Yes. Oh, it comes right out. Ooh, that's well used. Now we're going to go to the back. Living life dangerously. That was still not tight. This one should slide out too. All right, we're going to turn this thing over so I have access to the other two rods. This still turns over very poorly. That's really tight. Why is that so tight? Who did this? That's tighter than head bolts. Ooh, can I not push that one? Yes, I can. I need help with this one. That's not going to do it. Blue is always down for a challenge. Wow. Will the final rod be as tight? Yes. It also seems to have deleted something kind of important. What happened? Where'd that go? Oh. It's fine. That doesn't want to come apart, but I have a tool for that. Okay. Let's see, can we push this one out? Oh yes. Hopefully it comes right out. Perfect. The next thing I'm going to do is totally revolutionary. Look at how metallic that oil is that came out of that thing. We're going to try to split the block on the stand. This might not work, and I'm okay with it. Yeah, that was a little tight. I'm pretty sure the rest of these bolts, yes, they are 12 point. Let's crack these bolts loose. I think I got them all right. Yeah. Ooh, missed that one. It won't do it. Is it this one? Did I miss any others? How did I miss one? What was my brain doing? Now I'll unbolt the motor stand, engine stand. This should just lift right off. No, it's not going to lift. I have to figure this one out. It is with relative certainty that I have all the bolts out. I don't see anything inside the bell housing area. Ideally, a spreader would be used. But I think we're working here. In fact, I'm going to rotate this a little bit so that the crank just doesn't bounce out of it. That would be bad. Anything to pry on in here? Nope. Why would there be? I guess that works. Oh, something fell. I don't know what it was. It was metal. I think this should just lift right off, right? No. We'll get it off. What about now? Look at that. And now we can remove the remain seal. And now the crank. Oh, I'm glad I didn't try to do that on the bench. It was way easier on the stand. Well, let's start out with the rod bearings. Those are cooked. Those are also bad. These are, I had to peel these off of the crankshaft. They literally are razor thin, deformed. This was the cylinder where the piston struck the cylinder head. And then the last one, much like 1, 2, and 4. Rods and pistons, the rods all look pretty good. Pistons have a lot of skirt wear. And I think a lot of that has to do with the rod angle here, the offset rod, which they do that so that you can service them without pulling the wrist pins like their predecessor. What is interesting here, though, what I find most interesting, besides the fact that the rods or the pistons are all heavily worn, is that earlier in this teardown, I removed a piece of ring, compression ring from the pickup. And it is unmistakable, that's not a word, unmistakable, that's the word, what that is. It is part of a compression ring. And yet, all of these rods and pistons, all of these pistons have complete rings on them. Which by the power of deduction tells me someone's been here. Someone was here doing a sloppy job, and not the kind where you don't look at the cam bearings on an LS and you slam it together anyway, but the kind where you just don't do a good job. Because all of the rings are present, there's no broken rings anywhere on these pistons, and yet right here, right out of the pickup tube, a section of compression ring. Main bearings, pretty heavily worn. This thing was circulating lots of material in the oil, and that damages everything. Crankshaft has damaged journals, especially when you get to the bearing that was spun and rolled on top of itself, which is that one right there. Could you turn this crank? Probably. Should you? No. No. Just buy another one. They're not that rare. They're not that expensive. And what happens is when these bearings become paper thin and they roll on top of each other, that changes the distance between the center point here and the top of the piston, which allows the piston to make contact with the cylinder head, which is why that one is the one that has witness marks. Let's look at these block halves now that we can see the entire bore here. So that one's not so bad. That one is so bad. Let's look on the opposite side. Oh, yikes. Here, let's get a better angle. That's a lot of wear. I have no idea if these block parts, these block halves are worth anything. I don't know if people build these engines or if they just buy them. The other block half, not near as bad on that side, but this side, pretty severe, especially that one. What I also thought was interesting is there is a ding. There it is. It's not a good place to have a ding. A door is bad, but the block surface is much worse. I think we can all clearly see what happened here. And I also think that this is a very poor example of one of these engines, and that I would not judge whether these engines are good or bad by what you saw today. Most of these engines don't look like this, and I'm not here to tell you that they're all going to last 200,000 miles, because we all know that's kind of unlikely. It's a Subaru after all. However, they don't usually look like this, and by that I mean they usually haven't been gone through so poorly. The craftsmanship we saw today, dismal at best. Some of the bolts were way too tight. Some of the bolts were way too loose. Important bolts, rod cap bolts, pretty important. Plus, I know some things were reused that probably shouldn't have. And then we can talk about how they resurfaced the cylinder heads with a roll-lock disc to save $150. These are $5,000 engines. You won't spend $150 to have them resurfaced correctly? How many corners do you think they cut on the rest of this engine? Plus, they didn't even clean it out all the way. We found part of a ring from the past explosion in the pickup tube. So that is why this engine is junk, not because it was designed poorly. Speaking of how it is designed, it is very clear to me that Subaru took a lot of notes from its predecessor, the EJ, to make this engine more serviceable. Everything was remarkably easier to work on. And I also think getting rid of the timing belt, which I prefer belts over chains, but I'm a maintenance guy. I think getting rid of the timing belt for a chain that probably lasts longer was a good move, although I know that that has its own set of problems. I think overall these engines are significantly better and easier to work on than the EJ engines, but they're also a lot newer and they're also a lot more expensive. So it kind of balances out. So if you'd like to buy any parts out of this engine or anything else I've torn down, you can go to Importapart.com, or maybe this 2001 BMW Z3 3-liter. It's rear-ended really hard. I'm going to leave our email in the video description. And if you need Subaru parts, you can visit my friend Pete's site. He has a website. It's pmpauto.com. No, that's not the website. I'll leave the website in a link in the video description. But he has all the Subaru stuff. I don't generally sell Subaru parts because, well, Pete does. I really hope you enjoyed this teardown. As always, I love all the comments, all the feedback, and even the criticism. I love it all, and I'll catch you on the next one.